Welcome to another edition of For the Health of It. I am your host, Corian K. Padgett, and today I have with me Successful Brim, Trayvon Briggs, and Dr. KJ from the Minority Psychology Network. I want to thank you all for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Good deal, good deal. So, Successful, we'll start with you. I don't want to say it like this, but who are you and what do you do?
Okay. Okay, so as you stated, my name is Successful Brim. I'm the founder and president of the Minority Psychology Network. I'm also getting my doctorate in clinical forensic psychology. And so each one of us have different parts that we play in the Minority Psychology Network that's very vital, such as, being advocates or mental health professionals. So now you're going to get to meet the rest of the team, and you're actually interviewing today the Sports and Mental Health Committee.
Yes. So Dr. KJ?
So, hi, everybody. I'm Dr. KJ. What am I? I'm a mental performance coach, consultant, counselor in training. I have a doctorate in sport and performance psychology, a master's in leadership and sports management, as well as a bachelor's in psychology concentration sports psych. So you kind of got the drift. I really love sports and, understanding how the mind works. It's my favorite realm to be in. I'm also in school right now for a clinical mental health counseling master's. So that way I can really provide those services needed, ethically, as well as give them that counseling care that they need. So that's me. That's what I do.
All right. Trayvon?
Hey, everybody. Name is Trayvon Briggs. I am the chair of the Sports and Mental Health Committee. I'm also, along with the rest of the group now, a doctoral student officially, and a very strong advocate for student athletes. I particularly deal with holistic development and social capital, and just really finding ways to support student athletes off the field overall, and also primarily work in leadership development with college institutions.
Okay. All right. So what is, for both Trayvon and Dr. KJ, what is sports psychology?
For sure. I'll go ahead and take that. I kind of wrote notes, so if I'm looking down, that's what it is. Basically, sports psychology is a scientific study of people and their behaviors in sport and exercise, through the context and practical application of that knowledge. So what we do as sports psychologists or mental performance coaches is we work with athletes on breaking through those mental barriers. A lot of people think that to get to that next level, it's just physical. When in reality, how your mental game will affect how you maneuver. So what we do is we study that. We study whether people need more motivation. We study whether, people are too relaxed in their maneuvers, and if they need energization, or if they're too jittery, how to calm them down. We teach them mindfulness. We teach them tons of mental skills, training, and tactics for them to be able to get past the setbacks and barriers and be able to really achieve, performance excellence. So that is kind of the gist of what we do. We really started it because you see athletes are out there, they're getting burnt out, or they're frustrated and they're not understanding how to kind of channel it. Okay, why are you upset? Why are you missing these simple skills in essence, which really aren't so simple? What's getting to you? Is it the crowd noise? How can we help you guys alleviate that distraction? So we set to work with athletes individually, work with them as a group. We work with the coaches on understanding team culture, team development, as well as understanding their players' needs. Because a lot of coaches have their expectations and what they think works, but everything's not cookie cutter, and you have to really get to know your athletes to really develop that coach-athlete relationship. And from there, you define it for each person, assess their needs, and then you can be a better coach and really help them get to that next level. So that's really just like a overview of what we do as sports psychologists and what the field is.
So how does somebody get started in the field of sports psychology?
Good question. So some schools are now coming more to having this actually as a major. It's still fairly young. It's been around roughly about 50 or so years. And what you do is just go study psychology as a bachelor's degree. And then from there, if your school has a sports psych, definitely do it. Sometimes it may be called like exercise psychology, whichever, performance psychology. Study that. Then you're going to want to go get higher education. So you need a master's or even higher than that, like a doctorate. And you'll find a program, you'll intern, you'll apply that work. And then upon doing that, you're also gaining hours to be able to sit for the CMPC exam, which is a Certified Mental Performance Consultant or Coach exam. And then once you pass that, you just have the title as Certified Mental Performance Consultant. So a lot of people will do that at the master's level. You can also go up to the doctorate level, as I and many of my colleagues have done. And then it's the same requirements, the same amount of hours. And then you fill out all the paperwork, confirm that you have it. They connect with your people, take the exam, you pass, and then you get your certification. You don't need it to practice, but it is helpful for when you're doing like legal and other ethical things. And some people just prefer to have that certification, for the credentials. To actually become a sports psychologist, you'll go along the same lines as it would to actually be a psychologist. So you would then go to get licensed. Mm-hmm. And then upon being a licensed psychologist, then you can wear the term sports psychologist.
Gotcha. So as of today, today is May 30th, 2020. Mm-hmm. Is there such thing as sports psychiatry or psychiatrist or sports psychiatrist?
To my present knowledge, no. Sports psychology as an actual profession, yes, there are many sports psychologists out there. If you were to go to like the APA, mm-hmm. you can search. I cannot remember what exact division we are, but you can go there. You can also go to ASP, which is the Association of Applied Sports Psychology, and you can find actual like sports psychologists in your area. What they're doing. You can assess their credentials. Who's new, who's been around, and even on there, they'll even say specifically to what certain sports psychologists or even CMPCs do. Because some are just mindfulness coaches, some work strong with goal setting and motivation, some work with pressure and all that. So you can find people to what you're looking for, to your interests.
Okay. And so what exactly is it that you do?
I do a lot of motivation and goal setting. I work with people on feedback. I really like, listening in on, okay, like, what are you saying to yourself and trying to get people out of the negatives. I find myself to be very optimistic, so I follow more along the lines of positive psychology. It's not everybody's cup of tea, so I strive to really use a 1 foot in and 1 foot out approach where I'm kind of set in my values and my beliefs and everything, mm-hmm. but then I dip my foot, or I'm open to hearing other people's perspectives and what they go through, and just really getting a basis for them. And once I develop that, through intake and whatnot, then I can know how to better assess them.
Good deal. What about you, Traywan?
So myself, I am not necessarily in any of those fields. My work is more in consulting with student athletes and athletic departments. I focus primarily on insight, self-awareness, problem solving, leadership development skills in that way. Mostly because we do find, a lot of student athletes that when they're put in these leadership positions, for the most part, that is found interesting. A lot of these student athletes don't know truly how to be a leader. They usually figure it out through examples, which means that it's going to be trial and errors. Mm-hmm. Or they figure it out through, well, I'm going to do exactly what coach does. But then it becomes, well, am I a teammate or am I just another coach? And most of the time, we're looking at our coaches crazy already. So why would we want to, enact and look that same way to our teammates? So what I come in and do with a lot of student athletes is really just consult on, okay, what are your leadership skills? What are some of your qualities? Are you a pleaser? Or are you somebody that's more on the action side? How can we, effectively communicate without you having to not be yourself? So that's really been my work. I honestly fell in love with it just because it's helped me do a lot of insight to where when I was once a student athlete and trying to do leadership, I hated it. I absolutely did not want any parts of it. It felt like too much pressure. And I didn't want to be looked at as, somebody that was trying to be the aggressor or just like coach. So it was really difficult for me to, speak up. I always believed in, I'll just lead by action and that's it. Don't ask me anything. So now in my work, coming back to this, it does trigger sometimes, a lot of different things that, I hear kids and I'm just like, whoa, I remember dealing with that at 19 years old. Like, okay,
right.
This is another chance to, how can we figure this out? What was your own personal experiences, but how can we help them navigate through this as well without, necessarily just holding their hand and giving them the answers. So.
Okay. So you mentioned being an athlete. Go ahead and give me a little bit of your background athletically.
Former student athlete, played football, ran track in high school. I went off to Cal Berkeley for a couple years and I played football there from 2010 to 2012. And then after, I transferred to the University of New Mexico, and that's where I finished off my career. A lot of injuries, a lot of setbacks. Mentally was just very tired. It was a lot of different experiences that really led me to why I do what I do today. But overall, it was an experience that I would never, want to take back or do different. It's really helped me build and figure out who I am as a person. Because at the time when as a student athlete, if anything that I can say about my experience was, it was always hard mentally to really figure out my identity and who was I outside of the jersey number. I realized most of my conversations in the classroom was not about the schoolwork, but are you starting this week? Do you guys think you're going to win? How many touchdowns do you think you're going to get? You missed a pretty bad tackle last week. Have you been improving on that? But outside of that, when it comes to actual work or group work and everything, everyone's hesitant to talk to the student athlete about these things. So it was really hard for me to really try to decipher who I was as a person and separating that from what I actually do. So yeah, it's been definitely a learning journey of really just figuring out still how to separate those two and not letting my profession, my career, or my hobbies dictate who I am as a person and how people are going to see me, especially as a young Black man, where, me being in other positions, people hear about, me being in sports, and they officially, I've been in rooms where somebody was like, well, why didn't you go to the NFL? Or well, why are you not working as a coach? And I'm just like, well, it doesn't work that way for everybody. And it's sort of an uncomfortable conversation, but it allows me to see, this is exactly what we're looked at, and this is what we're expected to be in the NFL and the NBA, not as an academic advisor or somebody that's belonging in the same room with others. So yeah, it's been a heck of a journey.
Good deal. So Dr. KJ, can you tell me a little bit about your background athletically?
Yeah, my bad. Let's see. So I kind of dabbled in a lot. Just decided, coming from an athletic family, why not? Main background is in aquatics. So I did that since six going forward. Was a competitive swimmer. By middle school, got into basketball, volleyball, softball, just something to stay active, just to really test my skills and my abilities. And then by high school, I think I solidified it just in basketball, water polo, and swim. I did that with intent on going to college for it. It was a big pusher for my mom, like, we're not financially there, so, your sports are going to be your way out. And so having that be the back burner, but also for me, it was kind of more like academically motivated. Long story short, I ended up getting a season-ending injury my senior year for swim, and was riding on, going to Azusa Pacific and swimming my freshman year of college because I had similar assistant coaches. My high school assistant coach was my college assistant coach. I was like super juiced about it. So that bummed me out, losing out this last 6 weeks. So I trained all summer to rehab, get ready. I get in the swim coach's class, I'm set, I'm ready, I'm ready for tryouts. I get in a car accident on the day of those finals, and my athletic career was over at that point, my freshman year of college. So, I had dreams, aspirations to, well, why not? I have this gift, why sit on it? But it ended in a bad car accident and having to really rehab my body, learn to walk again, be on bed rest, and, regain mobility. But what that did was actually spark the door to open for me to get into coaching. And from that incident forward, I've been into coaching and really working with athletes on that injury mindset when they feel like, it's over. And so I wanted to strive to develop programs in the future that really worked with those athletes on their mentality to not see that injury as their setback, but as that springboard going forward, that they could, of course, bounce back. So a lot of times, even as a coach, maintain my involvement in sports, I ensured that I was really key to what my athletes' needs were with their injuries, because I hated hearing my coach say, "Oh, you're lying about what had happened. I had a hip dislocation and my knee inflamed, and it was a whole hot mess. But being called a liar when I'm telling my coach, hey, this hurts, this is what's wrong with me, I wanted to completely change that. So now it's like really part of my motivation of what I do now. I'd love to maybe train myself. I'm still pretty young, and maybe playing on a master's team or something to stay involved in sports. But that's really my background with that.
Okay. Quick information from all of you, because you all sound pretty young. How old is everybody here?
I'm 25.
Awesome.
28.
30.
Okay. All right. So I am the elder statesman in there. I am 31. But anyway, with that being said, Dr. KJ, you mentioned that you were a swimmer. Swimming is not big in the African American community. Being a sports psychologist now, and looking back at your time athletically, did that affect you mindset wise? Being well, first off, I didn't live your life, so how was it, and what was the makeup of your team?
Well, I live in sunny SoCal, so out here it's not very common. For me, my mom was just like, well, we are always around pools, you need to learn. So I was just taught and developed this skill. And I had lots of coaches that poured into me like growing up, so I didn't really see it as a problem. I got to swim with my cousins, and so we're all African American, so it was cool. Then when you go to competitions and you see everybody who's not Black, it's kind of like a culture shock at first, but you just do for the love of the sport. And so we just love swimming. So I didn't think much of it. My family was there and supporting, and I don't really think it clicked until about high school. Because mind you, I swam for about 15 years competitively, and it was high school, transferring to a new school, and hearing kids at a more Black school saying, oh my gosh, there's a Black girl on the team, there's a Black girl on the team. And I was like, well, dang, like I know I'm Black, but I don't think it clicked at that moment because I'm from a dominantly Hispanic neighborhood. I see my Black family, like it just is what it is. I've gone to, multicultural schools. I didn't see race. It didn't affect me. I've always been around everybody in all my sports. But I think it was in that moment I was like, dang, people really have this conception that Black people don't swim. We don't want our hair wet. We'll drown if we get in. We're all afraid. And, that wasn't my life. Like our whole family, we're always in the water. And so I really tried to make a difference. I did indicate that I went to 2 high schools. So my first high school, I was like, well, I've been swimming with this varsity team since 7th grade. So I got to know the program and started telling my friends, let's go swim. I'll teach you whatever it takes to try to bring, more of my Black friends into the pool. And I believe my freshman year was one of the biggest teams. So it was awesome. But then of course me transferring to a different school and the coach not really being able to adapt to that coach-athlete relationship with the swimmers, the team dwindled down, and next thing I knew, the program was gone. At my other high school, was dominantly white high school, I was the only Black swimmer, but they didn't make me feel like I was the only Black swimmer. Okay. I had support from everybody. They were super motivating and encouraging. And even my coach was initially, and I just don't even think he thought when he had said the comment to me, he didn't even think twice about it. I think looking back on it, he'd be like, oh my gosh, I was such a jerk. And I mean, being in SoCal now, it's grown. There's way more African Americans swimming. We even have our Hispanic people swimming, and we're dominating, and we're almost equal to the amount of white swimmers or Caucasian swimmers out there. So for me, I didn't really see it being any different, but I have noticed and I've heard it from other people.
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that. So I'll throw this one to Successful real quick. What is your why? And,
That's a really, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And the other two be thinking of your answers because I'm coming to you next.
Oh, they got it good. Okay. But no, that's a really, really good question. I would say my why stems from just seeing what's going on around me and my environment. I know the whole reason for starting the Minority Psychology Network is noticing that there's a stigma attached to mental health in the minority communities. Right. So, and even in my families, we've been taught, you know, pray, don't go to therapy, you know, keep all the family business within the family, you know, you have us to talk to. So my why is simply, you know, if I have the resources and I have the knowledge and the information, why not just do it? You know, so that way I can be a blessing to somebody else, and we can all come together and really, you know, make a difference and help our community out as best as we can in order to help us, because your mental health really is your wealth. You know, so if you don't have a sound mind, you know, your body also is affected negatively. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing whatever I can, because I feel like, you know, we all have been taught, you know, maybe the wrong way, just because, you know, our family, our parents, they didn't know any better. This is what they were taught. So my why is strictly because if I know I can do it, why not?
Okay. Sherwan?
Yeah, I would say my why is, you know, really for me, you know, I'm I'm into leadership. I love leading just to serve others. I sort of think of it as being a bridge builder. You know, I've already came across all these different experiences, and I'm seeing all these things from 17, 15-year-old me all the way down to now 28-year-old me. And it's like, okay, you know, and just like Dr. KJ, I also coached at UNM. I was a football coach, and I couldn't help but notice like a lot of these cats were going through the same issues that I went through. Like, okay, if football doesn't work out, what else are you going to do? Or, you know, I'm getting this degree, but I don't even like this degree. Like, I just got put in here because of, you know, they said it was going to be easy for me during football season. You know, I don't know what to do with a liberal arts degree, or I don't know what to do with a sociology degree. Like, they were getting some of these things in, but they wasn't really applied. You know, it wasn't really taught to, you know, these are the alternatives. These are some of the things that you can do. And it really just made me start thinking, and what made me stop coaching actually was it started making me feel like a hypocrite. Like, how can I sit here and talk to you about all these great things that you can do outside of football, but I'm also screaming at you and cussing you out because you're not here at the field, or here over here doing something that I feel like you should be doing to, you know, dedicate your life to. But I learned that I was conditioned like that because of my upbringing. You know, for me, it was football or nothing. Like, there was really, Trayvon didn't have no plan B. I didn't have no plan C. Like, it was, this is what we doing straight up. It's NFL, you know, feed my family, take care of them, and that's it. And after a couple surgeries later, and I'm sitting there trying to figure it out, it's like, bruh, that's not what's going down. So
Exactly.
what's next? And I remember how that felt. I remember going through those processes and how my mind felt, and how I felt like I couldn't do anything without football. Like, I truly felt that like I was stuck. And one thing that I promised was like, man, if I ever see anybody else like this, like, I will tell them, everybody back home, everybody that comes after me, my little cousins, like, look, if you think I was balling and I was doing good, like, that ain't it. Like, you gotta take a step further. You gotta do more. So it really started off of just like my personal experiences and me wanting to help family members. And then once I got that coaching gig back at my university, and I was helping guys that I was playing with when they were freshmen and I was seniors, and now I'm seeing them as juniors, and a little bit more age, but still doing some of those things. It was just like, man, I'll be a fool if I just let you sit here and waste your life. You know, spend your 3-4 years here in paradise and then go back to the hood with nothing, you know, nothing to account for but this piece of paper that you really don't know how to use. So that's really where my why became, you know, forcing myself into a leadership role so that I can just serve and give back. Because I realized quickly that if I just try to lead by action, and not really speak up, 9 times out of 10, or maybe 7 times out of 10, like, I wasn't going to get the same reaction if I actually verbalized and, you know, talked to others. So that's my why.
Okay. And Dr. KJ?
That's a good question. I don't know, a lot of my why just kind of stems from how I was raised and the tools that were just like instilled in me. And it's just always to give an impact. And so something like I'm super like strong about, I even know like with Trayvon and like a lot of people in the org are too. Remember just years ago saying like, how could I give back? You know, growing up wanting to be a pediatric emergency room doctor because I lived on thrill. I loved everything blood and gory, but just being able to think quickly in those medical situations to help people And then, of course, getting into sports and learning through my experiences and realizing I have a lot to offer to people, but I just shouldn't just keep it to myself, just get it out there. So my why is to leave an impact that caused like a ripple or a domino effect where I've impacted somebody. And because of the impact that I left on them, they're able to impact. And we do this in a strong way, and we're leading by example. So when I started my own business and came up with the name like Dominant Impact, I wanted dominant because I wanted it to be a strong impact, something that people couldn't forget. I wanted it to like quake and shake and cause that ripple effect. And when it came to the impact, it was like, what's it going to stand for? And I had it be individuals mastering individuals mastering performance and achieving critical transformation.
Right.
And it was like super key to what I was doing, because not only do you want to master your performance as an athlete, as a student, as just a person, you want to achieve critical transformation. I had an issue with like just simple transactional stuff. I'm not transactional in the slightest. I want to be transformational. You know, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me. Not only do I want to be a good leader, but I want to be a good follower and change the way people see the world, change the way people see athletes, change the way people see students. And, you know, having a Black cousin, a Black nephew who has gone through a lot of things, and yes, you come from a family of educated people, there's still things that, you know, he even missed that I was able to, from my experience, to be like, hey, you know, you want to check in about this? Hey, no, feel free to speak up about this. You don't like this grade, you know, talk and change. And from these situations and these experiences, you know, I'm able to live out my why on a daily. So that's really that.
I like that. I like that. So Trayvon, I want to throw this one to you. How would you help an athlete that is recovering after a pretty traumatic experience, whether it be a injury or something a little more intangible like a loss?
Yeah. Man, that's something that I've actually been thinking about a lot lately. Just with what's going on right now, you know, with the loss of Brother Floyd and a lot of other people, Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on.
Right.
You know, I had a lot of student athletes reach out to me as of lately, like, man, what do we do? You know, and it's a mixture right now. It's a really interesting mixture of, you know, this pandemic going on, seasons are cut, you're home, you're very uncertain about your future, but you're also seeing other lives around you being taken away that look just like you. And it starts to create a lot of different emotions. And I think the first thing that I feel like I can possibly do is be there to listen, you know, not really, you know, trying to tell them, hey, just breathe and calm down. Like, nah, actually let them assess and actually let them feel those emotions, because I know anytime that I was told to just breathe or calm down, I felt like I was being, yeah, it was making me mad, but it was like, it wasn't necessarily making me mad about why are you telling me that? It was more of, why are you limiting my emotions? Like, why do I have to instantly calm down when I'm coming to you about something that I'm so invested and hurt about? Why is your reaction calm down? You know, I remember even telling people like, hey, relax. And I would see their facial expressions, and I started to learn the hard way. Like, bro, don't tell people that. Like, that's not what they came here for. You're totally shutting them down. So the first thing is just making them feel, you know, making them feel in a safe place to know that they can express these emotions no matter how these emotions may come out, you know, how raw it may be. And then wherever they might be, we can just take it from there, because, you know, it's not a cookie cutter. Right. There's some people that deal with emotions in a certain way, or deal with a loss in a way of, you know, I got to man up. I'm going to be all good. And you got to sort of meet them there and sort of figure out, okay, how can we break that down and we can take it, you know, in a certain way. And then there's others that are just like a complete shock, you know, a complete quote unquote mess. And you have to meet them where they're currently standing. So for me, it's really listening, figuring out where they're at, and then us working together on how to get you back slowly, to get you back to where, not necessarily where you need to be, but where we can start making logical decisions, and we can start talking more, and we can start taking a little bit more emotion out of it day by day.
Gotcha.
But that's been a huge learning curve for me. And I'm at a time right now where I'm getting that question almost every single day. And also at the same time trying to figure out, like, man, what am I doing for myself so I can be, you know, good enough to actually listen and hear what you're saying without my own bias or without my own frustration. So no, I appreciate that question.
Thank you. Dr. KJ, you brought up being a good leader and being a good follower. So I really appreciate that, because a lot of people they tend to be a good leader without necessarily wanting to follow or being a good follower. So that is a good thing that you brought up. Before I get everybody out of here, I'd like to know the background and formation of MPN. You already mentioned it a little bit, Successful, but also if you could go into the future of your network.
Okay, thank you for asking that, Corian. So the goal for the Minority Psychology Network is to build a network of minority mental health professionals and advocates, so we can give insight, education, and information to minority communities regarding mental health. In the future, we would just like to be able to break the stigma, have it to where stigma does not stop minorities from trying to get the help that they need. You know, because like I said earlier, like a lot of us have been taught to pray, and, you know, maybe you're crazy if you go to a therapist or a psychologist or even psychiatrist, you know? So the goal is to make sure that stigma does not get in the way of trying to receive those resources. What we do is try to give insight and education and information in an innovative way. We do that through our different events that we have weekly, which is like our Ask MPN, our workouts every morning, and we have our sports and mental health talks. All of these events give the community an opportunity to ask any questions that they have about mental health or those specific topics that we're talking about that week. And also the workout gives you an opportunity to understand that your fitness and your mental health are definitely, they go hand in hand. You know, if you're not feeling good, you're not looking good, or you're not mentally there, it all, you know, can dictate how your day is or who you are as an individual. So our goal is just to make sure that we're spreading as much knowledge as possible, that we're also creating more minority mental health professionals and advocates, because the more you see people that looks like you advocating or becoming educated in mental health, the more people will feel more comfortable talking about their mental health and wanting to go get help.
Okay. All right. And the main reason I brought you guys on today, the for and for the health of it isn't just a cool way to write for the health of it. It's also a little bit of a double entendre, mindset, movement, nutrition, recovery. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. And lastly, before I get you out of here, if you would plug your social media accounts and any other way that the audience can reach you all.
Okay, so our website first is just the minoritipsychologynetwork.org. You can also email us at mpn@theminoritipsychologynetwork.org. Instagram is mpn_. Also, Facebook is just the minoritipsychologynetwork.org, and the Twitter is the same as Instagram, mpn_.
Okay. All right. Anybody has any goodbyes or anything like that before I get you all out of here?
No, we just want to say thank you so much for having us. When you reached out to me, I was very excited, and I know the Sports and Mental Health Committee is always excited to do interviews, because a lot of people don't really talk about sports psychology. Like Dr. KJ says, it's really new, but it's definitely something that needs to be highlighted. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Well, I definitely appreciate you, Successful, Dr. KJ, and Trewan. This has been For the Health of It. And again, I appreciate the Minority Psychology Network, MPN, for being on here with me. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.